Yeah, kids, that was the new record from CinemaCinema. That was Dayleash, which I believe is also on the new, the currently out there EP, Shoot the Freak. And we are lucky enough right now to have Evgold, the singer and guitarist and multi-instrumentalist, really, from CinemaCinema, this great duo. Ev, can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine, Finn. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you on the air with us. CinemaCinema is some sound, I have to tell you that. Yeah, you guys are a duo. It's you and your cousin Paul, right?
Indeed. We're a duo. You know, I mean, we've gotten, usually when people see us live, they're pretty surprised at the amount of sound, volume, and sheer force that comes out of the two of us. But we both have a lot of issues that we're working through, I think, probably down deep inside. So when we kind of connect with each other and activate as cinema, the beast kind of awakes, you know. I mean, we definitely thrive on pushing and challenging each other musically, and you know, I think that our bond has just grown and grown and grown over all the touring and all the road and all the stuff we've done together, and it doesn't hurt that we're cousins. So yeah, it's just the two of us. It's a pretty crazy, loud, and large sound for two guys. So yeah, that's usually the feedback we get is people who are at shows might come walking in a song or two late, and they'll be totally shocked that they see just two guys up there. I also, in the live setting, I run a ton of pedals, and I buy my pedal boards. I run a couple of amps, so we get pretty. There's some muscle there, but it is but a duo, just two cousins from Brooklyn, so born and raised. So all right,
so let's
just the two of us.
Let's talk before we get to the new record. Let's talk a little about you know, the formation of the band. You guys have been around for a few years at this point.
To give it an official birth date, it was January 11th, 2008. That was the inception. That was the beginning. That was when we came flying out of the womb as a two-headed monster. You know, I mean, Paul is my cousin. There's 10 years that separate us. It's magical how the language of music and its medicinal ways and its communication and it's just all its wavelengths. I mean, those 10 years kind of crumble away really quickly. We're the same. We come from the same source, and that age just goes away. I think it's pretty interesting, though, that when we started, I was 29. I had just gotten divorced and got out of a relationship that was really holding me hostage and not the right place to be throughout my 20s. I had been doing bands. I've done bands. I've been playing in bands since 1994. Played CBGBs in 95. Numerous times. I was 16 at that point. So I've been running around and doing the band thing forever all around Brooklyn and New York. I had never gotten a chance to walk it and talk it and do it the way so many of my favorite bands and biggest influences have done. I'd never got a chance to really go out and tour, put it first, make it a priority, and just go for it with all I had. And then I wound up washed up at the later end of my 20s in a marriage that wasn't working correctly. So usually it's funny, a lot of like rock guys, rock guys, a lot of people that I meet out on the road, a lot of different band people, rock men or women, whatever, or you could take the rock prefix off, but they usually kind of like do a backflip when I tell them how like I kind of got divorced to pursue my art as hardcore as I could, rather than like being in a band that's going so well and then getting married, maybe, and tailing off. So it was the end of '07 I got divorced, the beginning of '08 Paul and I started. I had seen him play with his previous band. Now, I was 29 at the time, and he was 19. I had seen him play with his previous band, and he blew my mind. And I thought, I hadn't strategically planned on starting a duo with my cousin, a loud rock, experimental, crazy, massive beast of a duo. But what happened was I saw Paul perform with his old band, and I thought immediately, if he does what he does best, and I do what I do best, and we push and challenge each other, we could come with something wholly unique, as opposed to trying to have regular formation and the regular songs and the regular stuff. There's a million bands trying to be like a million other bands out there. You know, and I at first had thought there'd be a rhythm guitar player, a lead guitar player, there'd be a bass, there'd be drums. I thought all those things. And then Paul just knocked me off my chair and gave me the idea that, you know, rather than model ourselves on anything, let's see what this, what the face of this thing could look like if it's just Paul and I. So we jammed that first time, January 11th, 2008, and it was electric right away, and the chemistry was there right away. And by February 22nd of '08, we did our first show in Manhattan, the Lower East Side. And by summer of '08, we began touring. You know, started small, going to, like, you know, Jersey, Maxwell's, Hoboken, etc. And then we really broke the cherry by doing the Midpoint Music Festival in Cincinnati, Ohio, in September of 2008. And we also happened to get addicted to touring after that, and what it felt like and what it feels like to really go for what you feel you're supposed to be going for in your life. We really got addicted to that feeling of, like, no one could take this from us. We know we're supposed to be doing this. You know, not to be all Blues Brothers, but we're on a mission from God. Let's do this now. So it's been a crazy, long, awesome, fun road. Over 200 shows since then. In the year 2009, we did 100 shows alone.
Wow.
That was a very important year for us. But yeah, we've been going since January of '08, and it's been nothing but fun. And I could tell you now that, you know, hopefully, as time progresses, if you and I get back together for an interview months from now, years from now, I can tell you, as long as Paul is able-bodied and healthy, and I am as well, CinemaCinema will be functioning at the highest level it possibly can, and we'll probably be touring or making a new record. Like, we're in this. We're going to see this thing through. No matter the hell or the water high, you know. I mean, we're all DIY and we do everything on our own, and we're not really worried about anything, because the feeling that we get when we play together is just so strong. It can't lie to us. So we're just following the muse, chasing it down the rabbit hole and going wherever it leads us. And hopefully it leads us to every state of the 50 and beyond. We've done Canada. We've done about almost 20 of the United States. But, you know, it's just like it's just a big building process. So it's been going for about 4 years and change now.
Wow. I have to say that whereas your sound is amazingly impressive, what I actually find more impressive is the songwriting and the structures going around that two-man operation. You know what I mean? In other words, sound, it's easy to be hard and loud, easier, I should say, but it's really cool that you guys not only are hard and loud, but you're also melodic. And, you know, tell us a little about the songwriting.
Thank you so much for pointing that out, by the way, because, you know, anybody could get a big hammer and bang you over the head with it. We could all just go to a hardware store and buy a hammer today. Like you said, it's not that it's easy or easier, you know, but it is to be hard and loud. You know, there's a volume knob and you turn it to 10 and you could go for it, and you could be crushing and crazy and all that stuff. The hardness and the volume, that comes, I think, from like I kind of alluded to early on, Paul and I think, you know, we're dealing with a lot of stuff that on our own, like demons. Every show is kind of like a boxing match slash exorcism of sorts. We definitely go into a trance-like kind of state. The live show is one big moving piece. We don't, like, play a song and stop and wait for you to clap for us. We start with whatever song we're going to start the set with, which for the last year or so has been UFO, which is the lead song on the full length, which comes out next week, Manic Children and the Slow Aggression. Generally, we start with that song or a song that we choose, and we just go on an improvised segue in between song kind of trip, like the Dead used to do almost back in the day, but nothing like the Grateful Dead at all. But we weave in everything together as we go. But to kind of get back to, I kind of went off the topic. The song structures. I think, like I was saying, being the hard and loud and crushing you over the head is one thing. But I've always found that the stuff that stuck with me, that's resonated with me, the stuff that I've, you know, on a Monday morning when I just want to stick my head under the covers and say, fuck it, or on a Friday night when I'm thrilled and I'm going out and it's the best time ever, I reach for music as my medicine in both of those different instances. But moreover, you know, I mean, stuff that speaks to me, you know, I mean, and song structure and melody has always been important to me. Very often when people ask me, "Oh, what's your band like?" and I say, "Listen, it's crazy, it's nuts, but there are songs in there." I mean, and we basically, we basically take our approach, our level of intensity, and apply it to song structures that with other bands would probably sound a little bit more, polished or normal, but we just kind of push it through our own meat grinder. I mean, I'm a sucker for melody, songs, and lyrics. No matter how much, oppressive heavy music or crazy out there experimental music I listen to. When I first learned how to play guitar at 14 years old, my father taught me, and he taught me by. I learned Neil Young has a double album called Decade. It's a 1970s retrospective, basically, of all his work, starting from Buffalo Springfield with Down to the Wire and Mr. Soul, and leading all the way through Cortez the Killer and The Campaigner, etc. I learned that whole double album on the acoustic guitar when I first learned how to play every single song. And Neil, his influence definitely touched me in many different deep ways in my soul. I love his voice. I love its fragility. I love his songwriting ability, and the strength really is in the songs with him. So I'm not saying he's a direct link and a direct reason why there's song structures, but I think both Paul and I, this agreement may have been tacit. We might not have actually spoke about this in the beginning, but we both knew that coming from a place of strong song structure and melody was going to be the key to how we wanted to emote, how we wanted to communicate. I listen to a band like Fugazi. They could be loud and crazy, but their songwriting there is just like, wow.
Right.
It's coming from an angle. Or the Minutemen. The Minutemen is just like, oh my God, what are they doing? And they're doing all this via songs. It's not just show off. And like Frank Zappa used to call it like noodling. Like anyone could noodle. You could get good at your instrument and noodle it up and show off for me. Give me a song that knocks me over.
Right.
So we really, those testaments of faith that we try to put out there with the songs are just trying to, we're just trying to bring something back to the musical table. We both sat down at it, Paul and I, so many times, and we've eaten from the musical banquet and utilized its medicinal purposes so often that if we don't bring it back now, that's our responsibility. So we really are trying to provide music for other people to get off on, get into, just like music has always done for us, but we don't consciously try to write a specific type of song. We just do what comes out of us. We try to not compromise the initial ideas and concepts, and it just so happens that both Paul and I are both very rooted in stuff that's, like a lot of our influences come from bands that really lean on good songwriting as opposed to just crazy loud madness. The crazy loud madness is fun, and it's key, and it's essential, and it's who we are. But I'm glad that you mentioned the song structures and the melody. Thank you, Finn. That's
sure.
very, very cool that you mentioned it.
And since you,
very important
and since you also,
we don't bend and we don't try to sound like anyone else. We just do our own thing. But I think it's kind of helpful that we express ourselves via the vehicle of song rather than just like flexing our muscles and being like, ugh, so I'm glad you pointed that out. Thank you, Finn.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you just mentioned the Minutemen in that particular discussion about songwriting and playing ability and all that. And you had a nice little, you've had a nice little stint with our friend Greg from Black Flag. For a little bit.
Oh yeah, there's been multiple stints with Greg from Black Flag and from SST Records.
Right.
I'm gonna guess that you might want to know how we came to become.
Absolutely.
Okay, that kind of makes sense because Greg is Greg, and he's just barring any association with cinema, Greg Ginn is a great guitar player. People call him a legend, an icon. I mean, the bottom line is, I think that he taught a lot of people how you got to just work. SST Records and the work ethic involved, and Black Flag and the touring. I mean, this is stuff that to this day, that work ethic holds up and blows way past almost every contemporary band that we have of ours in Brooklyn. I mean, there's so many bands in Brooklyn that's sitting back thinking like, okay, we could pack the local spot once a month and we look all good and look at our photos and this and that. Like, they have no clue So, I mean, Greg, and Black Flag, I've been a fan of this for a long time. What happened with cinema and how we've come to know Greg and be tight with SST, etc. I mean, it just so happens that coming up in July 10th, our record's coming out.
Right.
Manic Children in the Slow Aggression, which I mentioned 5 minutes ago, but I'm mentioning it again. We're doing more dates with Greg from July 19th through the 28th. We'll be up in Massachusetts. We'll be in Connecticut. We might be in Maine also. We're also going to be in D.C., Philly, Atlantic City, Baltimore, all those opening for Greg. What happened was this. In 2009, I touched on this briefly. I'm sorry if I'm speed talking, but
that's good.
I love to get into it. I love to really tell the tale, and I don't want to take up your whole show, Finn. So I'm trying to be efficient. In 2009, Paul and I made a decision that we were going to, we had done 30 shows our first year in 08. With some touring, like I said, we got down to Ohio and Jersey and Philly and stuff, but we decided in 09 that we were going to double that. We were going to do 60 shows. Well, lo and behold, by July, we had done 60 shows, so we decided we were going to do 100 shows in 2009. And, we aren't on a record label. We don't have a booking agent or any of these things or some hype man or some stuff. It's us. It's two cousins. It's us. I do all the booking, and we show up and we do everything. We also did that. 2009, we didn't even have a van yet. We had a 4-door white Mazda Millennia.
Nice.
That we slept in that thing with the gear. We slept in the front seat of that thing numerous times. Mm-hmm. We've been down the road, and we love the road, and you got to go there to come back. So, you got to go do this if you're in a band, unless you just want to sit home and be like a local hero, and then just it was a phase. Like, this isn't a phase for cinema. This is what we do. This is who we are, and pursuing the furthest reaches of the edges of music is all we're about. So anyway, we decided we were going to double the amount of shows. We got to July, we were up to 60. We said we're going to do 100. We're going to do 100 shows because we can. Because, no one else who's on our quote-unquote level, which I guess is like was or is like unsigned or DIY, no one else in Brooklyn, no one else around us was doing it, so someone had to effing do it. So in that year of doing 100 shows in 2009, many positive things came from that hard work. One of those things is a relationship with Greg Ginn sprung from that. Also, our relationship with Don Zientara, who engineered and recorded, mixed, etc., our new record down in D.C., that came from that as well. But what happened with Greg was we were crisscrossing, going crazy all around the East Coast, and we wound up doing a couple of shows with a band, CSC Funk Band, and one of the members of that band, they run a label, Electric Cowbell Records, and one of those guys was in a band that was on SST, like 15 or 20 years previously, and they were opening for Greg the next night. Greg's band at the time was a three-piece instrumental jam rock band called the Taylor Texas Corrugators. So I got a chance to meet Greg the next night because we were in the same town, and we spoke a little further, and a friendship was born. And also I think not to speak for him or anything, but I think that maybe he kind of had a little bit of respect for the fact that we were two cousins out in the middle of fucking nowhere from Brooklyn with just the money in our pocket, our clothes on our backs, a 4-door Mazda Millennia full of gear, and doing all this on our own. And, we didn't and we've never gone about things with Greg like, how can Greg help us? Like, Greg Ginn knows that if we never became friends with him, we would be doing the same exact thing we're doing, which is working our asses off. So, there's a certain good respect thing there where we met, we hit it off. He liked cinema. We have nothing but respect and love for Greg and all the stuff that he's done. So, after that meeting, he and I continued to talk on, it used to be MySpace before Facebook, I guess. This is 09, so we talked on MySpace for a while, and he said when he came up through the Northeast that cinema should open some shows, and lo and behold, about 5 or 6 months later, he was coming up. We did about a 8-show and 9-day run with him all around the Northeast with Massachusetts and Connecticut, kind of similar to what we're about to do with him in July of this year. And we've just really fell in love deeper, and we've made the decision that whenever we can play together, we will. So that was 2010 when we first toured with him, and then in 2011, last year, SST is now in Texas, It used to be in California for a long, long time. It's been in Texas for about 5 years. So last August and last November, and also this past February of this year, we flew to Texas and we did week-long runs with Greg. 2 of them were all around Texas. One of them was actually out of Texas into Oklahoma City and Little Rock, Arkansas, and Memphis and Nashville, Tennessee. So, yeah, and we have more coming up in July. So we met him via our hard work on the road, I guess. That's how we kind of met. You know, we bonded over that, and ultimately it's a great thing. And, I mean, this past February when we went down to Texas, we actually spent a day. SST is the label is you know, it's a building, it's a warehouse. There's also a studio. It's a huge complex, really. And he has a studio, as I just mentioned, and we actually cut we did a full session of CinemaCinema with Greg Ginn sitting in on bass.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, we don't have a bass player, as you know. It's just a guitar and drums. So we actually recorded. I don't know what's going to happen with that record. I mean, it's there at SST. It could come out next year. It could come out the year after. I mean, it's not out of our hands. It's just there, and Greg is doing his thing now. But our relationship with Greg is very much a solid, good thing. I can only say, you know, he's a great guy, and he's an amazing musician. And it is not lost on us whatsoever that it's an amazing thing for us to be playing with him. We don't try to be like, yeah, Greg Ginn, yeah, like it's nothing to shake off. It's really a great thing, and we appreciate and respect it very much. And yeah, we're going to be hooking up with him in about 2.5 weeks. We're doing the first date is July 18th in Cambridge, I think, or July 19th in Northampton, Massachusetts. But
very nice.
That's the skinny on
Greg
Ginn.
All right. So the new album, Manic Children and the Slow Aggression, is coming out on the 10th, right?
July 10th. Yes,
okay. Now you hooked up with Donzi and Tara.
Yes.
How did that happen?
We did. And that was a very another thing that was you know, I mean, fate, God, I don't know. I mean, are you supposed to not talk about things that are good and joyous when you talk about rock and roll? I mean, these are all positive things that came from hard work. You know, what it was in 1993, I was 15 years old, and 15 seemed to be a very formative age for me, at least. I had learned how to play guitar the year before, and I really started to dig deep into different music that I was reading about, and I stumbled upon, backed up into Fugazi, which turned me on to Minor Threat and everything that Discord did, and I also got into Black Flag and all these things. Black Flag, of course, that has nothing to do with Washington hardcore. That was, you know, Californian. But I'm just saying, when I was 15 or so, I started to really breathe and taste and touch and smell that amazing music, and it started to really have its effects on me. So I started to buy everything I could that Discord put out. I noticed that everything was recorded at Inner Ear Studios, which was in Arlington, Virginia, which I didn't know where that was. I mean, I was 15, and by a guy named Donzi and Tara. So for a long, long, long time, that was just always hanging over my head, like this magical guy did all this work with all these bands I love, et cetera, et cetera. So when time came, you know, and Paul and I were doing CinemaCinema, and we got together and we decided it was going to be priority. We were going to put it first. We were going to do it very seriously. We put out our first record in November of 2008 called Exile Baby, and we toured our behinds off. That 2009, that same 2009 that I referenced, meeting Ginn and doing the 100 shows, well, those 100 shows, they took us up and down the East Coast in like a figure eight many times. For 2 cousins from Brooklyn, the amount of times that we were in Richmond, Virginia alone was crazy, let alone D.C. We must have played D.C. like 8, 9, 10 times that year. By going down there so often, you know, I mean, it just kind of, we really got in with the steam, had a bunch of bands down there. We started playing shows, and some basement shows, and it wound up being that we played not too far from Inner Ear, and it really just kind of alerted me to the idea of possibly, maybe just recording our new album there. Not with Don, but recording it there. So I checked it out, and I got in touch with Inner Ear, and, you know, it basically seemed like they had some engineers, but like Don kind of chooses what he does. He's been around for a while, so, you know, you could try it out, you know, I mean, and reach out to him. And I reached out to him, and some people that he had known had seen us a couple of times, so he, not like Don Z was sitting around waiting for Cinema to call him, but at least it wasn't a cold call. He had heard the name, he had seen it around. because we had been just burning up the road down there. So I got in touch with him, and he said that he'd be willing to at least listen to the first record to see if, he thought that maybe he would engineer the new one, and if not, he'd be more than happy to put us in touch with one of his engineers there at Inner Ear. So I sent him the first record, Exile Baby, and he got back to me right away, and he described it as, it's a knockout, is what he said to me. And when Don Zientara is on the phone with you and tells you that your first album is a knockout, at least in his opinion, I jumped up and down on my side of the line.
Sure, yeah.
Not to downplay it, I was thrilled. And he was very, very awesome to us and very willing, and he knew that it was just Paul and I, and we were funding everything, and we told him we wanted to make this opus, this 13-song magical monster record, and he told us, it's going to take X amount of days, and I'm going to have to charge you, this amount is the minimum I can. And, we were just like, okay, yes, we'll come down, and we'll figure out however we have to pay you. And ultimately, the great story is, first of all, we wound up living in Inner Ear for 8 days in the pantry. We went down there, we never left. Obviously, Don went home at night to go to bed, but he would lock us in. That's where we stayed. That was a great, great experience. It was amazing, like being in a hardcore incubator or something. But moreover, when Don quoted us what it would cost, I said yes without having the money because we had to go do this record with Don. And Paul's uncle, Tom, passed away right around that time. About 2 weeks before we got quoted how much it was, and about a week later, Paul wound up finding out he got an inheritance from his uncle, and that inheritance was exactly the amount we needed.
Oh, my God.
To pay for Inner. So we had an angel right off the bat helping us along. There's lots of angels surrounding this record. We're very excited about it, but that's kind of how it happened. And, we hit it off so deeply with Don that the recording process was amazing. I can definitely see making our next record with him. I know that, we've already joked and talked about that, and he's very into it. And we've gone down and we've played with him a number of times since then. We've put on shows Crooked Beat Records, which is a great little record store in D.C. We played there with Don. He opened and we closed. We played a little spot in Arlington, Virginia called Galaxy Hut where we opened and he closed. We get down and see him as often as possible. It's an amazing ally to have, and working with him was astounding. He finds a way to help you as a musician to become a better version of you, not to change you, but to have that faith in yourself too. And that's what he did for us, at least. I went there not knowing what he would do, and all he did was help Paul and I to believe that we already had what we needed. Let's just do it, And it was an amazing, amazing experience that, again, is not lost on us how much of an honor it is to have, Don Zientara and Greg Ginn, to be talking to you about these two legends. It's just,
right.
We're very thrilled to be where we're at right now as a band, and we're very, very thankful and grateful to whatever angels, gods, spirits, or whoever are guiding us along the way. Because working with Don was just a blessing. And the record to me, what he gave, he insisted. They were like, we did it to analog tape. It wasn't about like the cold, calculated computer stuff of nowadays. We recorded to 2-inch tape.
Mm-hmm.
The record. It has. I'm not saying that it's the greatest or anything. I'm just going to use the word. It has a timeless sound. It does. It's a heavy, crazy record, but it doesn't sound like all beefed up and trebly and like intensely, like so many heavier records that I hear nowadays. Don.
Yeah, it's a very, very organic sound.
Yes,
it really sounds good.
Thank you, Finn. I'm here using words like timeless. Organic is a lot better,
well,
and I'm going to use organic from here forward. Thank you, Finn. That's
I will license.
Fortunate.
I will license it out to you, Ev. It's not a problem.
We will work to my people, and my people will get it to me.
So the record's officially released 1 week from today. And for more information on CinemaCinema, people can go to CinemaCinemaBand.com. That's the word cinema, the word cinema, the word band.com, and check out a whole bunch of stuff there. They have really cool videos. There's a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube too, but if you go to the website, you will see that you can bounce around from that point and get a lot more information on the band. And Ev Gold, I have to tell you, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you this evening. And the new record, certainly, I don't know if it's the gods and hard work or what it is, but it's come out really, really nice. And congratulations on that. And we're looking forward to it being released next week.
Awesome, Finn. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. I'd love to come back on whenever you would have me. That will be a dynamite thing. This has been a very nice conversation, set off my evening very well. So thank you very much for having me, Finn. And also, one quick thing.
Sure.
On Facebook, because so many people utilize Facebook today as their main internet kind of place to go, just so if any of you are looking for us on Facebook, there was like a cinephile or a film buff who has the facebook.com/CinemaCinema URL. So if you go to Facebook, if you go to facebook.com/cinematwice, that's CINEMATWICE. That is our Facebook link. It's very current. Or you can just go to the website, as Finn had mentioned, because the website is a good springboard to all the links and all the stuff that's there. Finn, thank you so much.
Ev, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you on the road, my friend.
Sounds good, my man.
Take care.